just watch a game of football. Like the impact he had, the way he strings the passes together.
Well, you know who you're going for. You can get your badge out. You might as well say it now.
How can you not be in the team of the season if that is your standard, if that is your low standard?
We've had the Chelsea bias, now the City bias on a 50-50.
He's unbelievable. He's vital, absolutely vital.
Team gets player of the season and then goes, you know what? I'm going to finish this title race.
Here we go.
The Premier League season is officially over, and now it is time for the real debate. Premier League team of the season. Today we're going through each of our respective teams. We'll probably disagree on a lot. And as always, make sure you're pausing the video in between and putting your comments below on what you think. Let's not hang about. Goalkeeper first, as always. I'll start with my choice. I probably went for the slightly less obvious pick here, but I think he had a solid season. It was a big part of in the end, Everton staying up. Jordan Pickford. Stats-wise, second still on the clean sheets list, and obviously for a team who were basically surviving and survived relegation, points deduction, he, for me, was the standout. Where did you boys end up?
Same as you. I can't argue that.
Right, I'm the one who disagrees. I had Raya. You come in your first season, you've got a lot of criticism against you already because people were like, well, why are you replacing Ramsdale? But to get that many clean sheets, thought he done superbly. He did make a few errors, but I think if you went down every keeper on the list, they all had some sort of errors this season. So, but yeah, I had Raya in mind.
All right, let's move on. I don't know with Raya though. Like, it's going to sound stupid because he's up there, but like, I can't remember him making any like major saves in big games. Is that harsh? Is it? I don't know.
Reece will probably know a bit better, but
I think he did. I think he was better at catching the ball. I think because he didn't have to pull off major saves because he was a bit more calmer, as a goalkeeper. And he had obviously Gabriel and Saliba in front of him, who I'm sure we might go into a little bit more in just a minute.
All right. Let's go right back. I'll let you boys start because I'm about 100% confident I've gone for someone different.
I think you know who you're going for. You can get your badge out. You might as well say it now.
So I've gone a bit rogue. All right, I'll go. I've gone a bit rogue, so I'll explain why. Because the other right backs that would have been picked, I think did well, but I expected them to do that well. So, like, I guess expectation, maybe this is really harsh, but expectation versus reality, I don't think was there. And I've gone for the boy who, at Chelsea, obviously, we've had a bit of a right back problem.
Chelsea glasses on. This is Jordan
Chelsea
right
glasses.
now.
Don't have any blue glasses to put on. But look, if you've watched him week in, week out for 90 minutes, you'll understand. He's an absolute gem. It's Malo Gusto. The reason I'm saying this is, one, he's like 21 years old. No one gave a crap because he signed for like £20 million. No one talked about him. And the biggest problem we've had is being nervous about James being injured every literal week. And it's got to a point where finally I can sleep at night knowing Reece James is injured because we've got Malo Gusto. And he's been genuinely brilliant to watch, skillful, good at defending, good at attacking. So hit me up in the comments with hate, feel free, but I'm sticking with it.
Absolutely not. Just wasn't in contention for me for that. It was one person only. It's Ben White. He's been superb all season, I think. There's very little he's done wrong all season, and then even started chipping in with goals against Gusto, and Chelsea. Not him directly, but you know what I mean. No, I think he's been superb this season, and to be honest, it's his own fault that he's not in the Euro squad. Like, there are other reasons behind it, but it's down to him for it, and he would be in it if not. So I think Ben White should be the right back. of choice.
Yeah, I'm not disregarding Gusto. I think he has been fantastic, but Ben White for me guarantees you a minimum 7 out of 10 every game. You know, in a way, he's what you'd say is a modern Gary Neville, except he's better looking in so many different aspects. He has been fantastic, and we can't knock that. And you know, without him, you know, we're missing an amazing player. And you know, yeah, I think he's had an amazing season.
Yeah, road picks aside, we've got to shout out Ben White. He has been class. Let's move on to the centre backs. Reese, we'll come back to you for this one. Tell us both your centre backs and why.
Yep. So I'll give you what shouldn't be much of a surprise. I'm actually going for Saliba. I think it was obvious when he was injured towards the end of last season. It's no real shock that Arsenal did have a bit of decline. I think they would have declined anyway, but regardless, you know, he was a huge loss. And look how he's been this season. You know, Gabriel's great. I love Gabriel, but just watching Saliba, you know, tackle and win the ball, you know, he's unbelievable and he's vital, absolutely vital to us. So I've gone with Saliba, and he's one of the reasons Raya has kept so many clean sheets. Again, love Raya too, but you know, can't knock Saliba's contribution. And my other centre back is, I did tussle with this one. I originally was going to go Van Dijk, but I've actually gone for Jared Braithwaite. Again, huge part in Everton's defence and their clean sheet record. He's a monster at centre back. You know, he hardly puts a foot wrong. He's so calm on the ball, and I think he could be the future of England's defence for many years to come. I rate him highly, and I think he's got a big future ahead of him. And yeah, I can't knock his contribution in. You know, he's a Sean Dyche dream centre back, isn't he? Let's be honest. He's everything you want, and you can't knock it.
Jamie.
So I agree with Saliba. I know that's 3 Arsenal picks for me in a row. So far, it's not a full 11 of Arsenal because, you know, they didn't get the most important part and winning the league. So they've done the best in the defence this season. That's why it's so many of them. I was struggling with the second centre back. Gabriel was one I was thinking of, and I've just gone for Van Dijk, and it wasn't to do with the reason. Yeah, the weird part of it is it's more because of who's been out around him. He's not had a solid centre back pairing all season. Konate's been in, Kwanzaa's been in, Matip's had, I think, very few games. Trent's been out at right back for quite a while this season. I think Robertson had a few injuries, and he's been the consistent one, and he's the one who's been keeping them involved and kept them in a title race. Okay, it fell away towards the end, but you got to remember this was City and Arsenal getting around about 90 points. Like, you can't always compete with that. So I thought he's been good. He's been really good. He's not been his best season, but I still think he's been up there with them.
Yeah, Van Dijk was the one I probably disagree with out of that, just because I think he was in Gary Neville's team this season, or Carragher's, one or the other. But Liverpool didn't keep a clean sheet for, I think it was like only 2 or 3 clean sheets since December. So although he had a good start to the season, and I think the point about maybe that is part of it. Not
Well,
keeping
even
clean sheets.
Alisson was out for so long as well. You've got to remember this. So
Yeah.
he was the only one left in that defence and kept them still going to be in a title race.
Yeah, no, that's a fair way of looking at it. For me, all those Arsenal fans that were screaming at the screen saying I'm biased for not picking Ben White, I have doubled up on the Arsenal centre backs. So Gabriel Saliba, ultimately best defence in the league this season, just simply levels above as a centre back pairing. Saliba probably just in terms of if I had to pick one, just got the edge as you boys said. But yeah, solid pairing, and that was why they were able to compete for the title to the last day. Left back. This was a tricky one. Jamie, we'll come back to you. Who did you go for and why?
So yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't think there was many absolutely outstanding left backs. I think it was between 2. So it'd be just sort of interesting to see who you've both gone with. I went with Gvardiol. Now, if you went from the start of the season, it was probably my other choice was Undogi. But obviously, he got injured for so much of the season, and I don't think he had the highs of the impact that Gvardiol's had. So that's kind of what it came down to, really. And towards the end of the season, Gvardiol was absolutely superb, scoring, brilliant winger type goals, coming inside 1-2 with De Bruyne, the goal against Fulham, for example. And then defensively, he shored himself up. Whereas I was critical with him at the start. Not so much where I was like, he's got to be out the side or out the club kind of sort of scenario, but he needed to improve, and that's exactly what he did. And hopefully will be our left back for absolute years to come, because he's got all the qualities defensively and attacking wise.
So we've had the Chelsea bias, now the City bias on a 50-50. To be honest, I kind of do agree with a lot of that. I did end up with a doggy because I felt like he had such a good start to the season. And I'd argue he did it for a longer game period than Gvardiol. Sensational for Spurs, real good attacking left back option. He got forward, and obviously for FPL, he was that defensive go earlier in the season, which kind of proves the point, I think. So yeah, Doggy, standout player, and when he comes back for Spurs, he will be straight back in that team. Reece, have you got the deciding vote, or have you gone someone rogue?
I think this was probably the weakest position on the pitch. Not as that the players were poor. I just think that players were good. But it's also that position on the pitch that I think is a thankless task. I've actually gone for Gvardiol myself. I think he's been great, consistent. Again, you can't knock him. Look how he's turned up towards the end of the season. He's been great, and scary to think that he's still so young.
There you go. Let's move on to midfield. Now, many would argue, actually, this is probably the least controversial position or part of the squad. And this is obviously based on what some of the pundits, etc., have put as their midfield. So I've done a 4-3-3. So I'll just say my three midfielders. I think you guys have gone, Jamie, you've done a 4 in midfield. Is that right?
Yeah, but I can I'll say a midfield 3, and I'll just sort of make up one of my wingers towards the front 3. So we'll do 3 each.
Cool. So the 2 for me that I'll be genuinely stunned if we haven't agreed on is Rice and Rodri. How Rodri, by the way, was not in the nominees for Player of the Season, absolute disgrace. Rice obviously was, and rightly so. Rice and Rodri, are we in agreement there?
Yeah, absolutely. How can you not lose a single game playing 30 odd Premier League games this season and not be considered in it? And he's also picked up goals and assists as well. It was madness that he wasn't involved in the sort of Player of the Season. And some people were saying he was my Player of the Season.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So it's madness for that. And Rice, £100 million signing, and the only people who are talking about the 100 million are going, we don't notice the £100 million sort of signing. He's been fantastic as well. So 2 obvious choices, I think, there.
Yeah, completely agree. No one's on their level. And like you said about the price tag, the price tag only becomes an issue when they're not delivering. So yeah. Can't knock it.
Agreed. And who did you guys go for the third? Or Jamie, maybe explain your formation a bit.
Well, I'll go with my one he's basically played a mixture of on the wing / he's mainly come inside for the whole season. It's the player of the season. It's Phil Foden. He's been absolutely brilliant in this, and he should be in both of your teams. You may have had him in a different position. There's no way you can't have him in the team. Gets player of the season and then goes, you know what? I'm going to finish this title race now. 1 minute 30 in, boom, top goal, top corner. A bit of a trademark goal for him this season with that. And I think he's been absolutely superb and showing why he can play in the middle, despite not playing for the club, as Southgate said at one point.
Yeah. And then did you have another midfielder then who could play there? or not?
Yes, but I'll put him as a winger. So go on with yours.
Cool. Reese, who did you have in that third position?
It has to be Phil Foden. 19 goals, 8 assists. He stepped up when De Bruyne and Haaland were injured. A young player like that, putting all that weight on his shoulders, and he stepped up. Unbelievable. It just goes to show how important coaching is as well. From Pep's side of things, he's made Foden an unbelievable player without putting the pressure on him. Nice if other coaches took note on how to handle young players, really.
Yeah. So from my side, just formationally. So obviously I've put Foden in the team. As you've seen, spoiler alert for our end of season awards on TikTok, but we all did put Foden as the player of the season. For all the rest of the awards, make sure you're following us on TikTok and check them out. But as my centre mid, so I did this as a CAM for formation purposes. Odegaard, I think again, absolutely pivotal in that midfield. Maybe you can look at the goal and assist numbers and say, look, he didn't quite meet the mark this season, but just watch a game of football, like the impact he had, the way he strings the passes together, the way he strings the whole team together. He's just levels above again. And he's been so consistent for the last 2 years. And again, he's a key player in why Arsenal were able to push City to the final day. So obviously for mine, I've gone Foden on the left. So we'll do it slightly in reverse, but who have you guys gone for up top?
Up top, this is where mine gets a bit weird, but I'll say my one striker. It's Haaland. Haaland's the guy down the middle. He's won the Golden Boot again, missing 8 games in November, December time. You score that many goals, and you have to be in the you have to be in the team of the season. It's sort of, he's got goals this season on a poor season apparently, which has only been done once or twice by the likes of Rooney, Drogba, people like this who you call massive strikers, and he's done it 2 seasons in a row. And I think people, because of how good he was in the first season in terms of breaking the record for the goals, people are expecting that again, which I think is ridiculous and unfair. So that's why he should be in this team. But we'll see if you two do. I don't think you both will agree with me.
No, so I again, Haaland was obviously like in the mix without question. Like it's just effortless. Like he's just in there now. The obvious ones who everyone's highlighted for strikers were obviously Watkins, Haaland, and Isak. For me, again, I touched on it earlier in the podcast about relative success and sort of above expectations. And with Haaland now, yeah, well, I'm not that bad. No, but look, Haaland is basically a victim of his own success. People now say if you don't get above 30 goals, like it's a poor season. So I've left Haaland out, but it is obviously harsh. It's just like, it is literally him just being a victim of how good he is. And obviously being in the best team in the world helps. I went for Watkins. And again, the reason for this is you look at the goal and assist numbers. He was level with Haaland, by the way, just to clarify. So again, I don't think it's that controversial. And City won the league, obviously, as you'd expect. But Villa, you would not expect them to be getting Champions League football. Even the most optimistic Villa fans, I don't think would have said they're getting top 4. And it's not just Watkins' goals, it's the assists. It's the way he brings in the team, brings in the attackers. And he's gone above and beyond this season, and he has literally dragged Aston Villa to the dreamland of Champions League football. So that's why relative success for me, I think it's got to be Watkins.
Yeah, both are fully justified. I do like Watkins. I did think Emery would have him flying. But I do have to agree with Jamie on this one. I think if you're having a poor season and you're scoring 30 goals, how can you not be in a team of the season if that is your standard, if that is your low standard to get 30 goals? No one's putting a glove on him. Ideally, I'd love to put Havertz up front, but he's not a striker, is he? So it's an unbelievable accomplishment. It's like he's becoming the victim of his own success and these high standards. And, you can't knock that if that's what he's getting you. He spends so many games doing absolutely nothing and comes out with 2 goals. What more do you want from your striker? He's unbelievable. He's exactly what a striker should be. So it's been perfection. almost perfection because he's had a bad season, obviously.
I think if he does that every season, I think he'll take having a bad season. Winning the league, FA Cup, Golden Boot. Well, I'll say FA Cup, but we'll see.
Touch wood, that for
Yeah,
FA
touch
Cup.
wood. We're all on your side. Long live City, Blue Moon, and all that. So let's move on. So if I'm right, you two have still got to reveal your left side player. Obviously, for me, I've already said that's Foden. Who did you guys go for on the left?
I went with Anthony Gordon. The only reason I say because he's an example again of how good coaching is. You know, Eddie Howe has got a real good tune out of players what you would deem average on paper, and he's made them world beaters. He hardly set the world alight when he left Everton for Newcastle. A lot of people were skeptical, especially at his price tag. But he's delivered and he's scoring goals. And I think he's an absolutely fantastic player. And I really think he's picked the right team to take his next level in his career. So, yeah, I like Anthony Gordon a lot. And I think he deserves the praise that he's probably not getting. And he definitely deserves his England call up.
Yeah, Gordon, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Sort of like, I think I said to you both in the group chat today, he will be key for England, especially with Rashford not in the squad. He's the one with that sort of that extra bit of pace that we will need in the attack. So I think he'll be key for England. So this is where mine gets a bit different. So my other player is Watkins. So this is where I was like having two strikers. I think my main striker would be Haaland. Don't want Haaland on the wing. So that's where you have Watkins sort of there. So I'll say Watkins is my left winger as such.
Yeah, both. Yeah, obviously Watkins I agree with. Gordon, to be fair, again, been sensational. Really, really a fan of how he's come on. And again, we got to remember, everyone laughed. I remember he was linked with Chelsea for 50 mil, went to Newcastle. Everyone was a bit like, oh, what's gone on there? And he has been, well, he's not been dropped. He's literally been that good. So moving on to the right side. Hopefully we're all in agreement here. I'll start. The one and only Cole Palmer. Again, stats don't lie. We've said it on TikTok. We've said it all season, if you've been following. Top in the league for goals and assists combined. So he's beat Haaland, he's beat Watkins, he's beat Foden, he's beat all the rest. To do it in adversity in a Chelsea team that were underperforming for a lot of the season goes to show how good he's been. So I've put him on the right. Obviously, he can play central as well. But yeah, absolute standout, and he has to be in this team.
I agree. I've gone with Palmer as well. So this is where my formation would have been a bit weird. I would have had four in midfield with Palmer and Foden, with Rice and Rodri. But yeah, Palmer, he can play on the right. He's been very, very good for Chelsea, and he's the reason why we've got European football. No one else in that Chelsea team is the reason. It's him. Now he's had a lot of penalties. Don't get me wrong. I don't expect him to have that many penalties next season because you've had quite a few. But you still got to put them away, and other players do miss them. I've seen tons of quality players who are all like a better standard than Palmer, miss penalties. You've got to put them away. So it's a credit to him, and it's not just the penalties that he scored. He's been very absolutely key to Chelsea, and for them to even get sixth place, and Poch not to be sacked sooner.
Yeah, I often question some of your Chelsea bias selections, Joel, but I don't question this one. To get 22 goals and 11 assists in what you would probably call a maiden season for him, really, is unbelievable. You know, in such a disjointed team, he's turned up trumps. He's not just against small teams either. He's delivered against big teams. And you're right, the mentality to show the coolness from the penalties, you know, the calmness up front. He wanted first team football. He demanded it and left City for it, and he's backed it up. Do I expect a drop off when Chelsea sign better players or as the team starts to grow? Yes, I do. But that's not a bad thing. He shouldn't have to carry the weight of that team, especially his position, all the time. But he's been unbelievable. He's backed it up in every aspect, and you know he's proven, I think, a lot of doubters wrong, especially at the price tag. And I think even though City won't admit it, I think ideally they would rather have kept him. because when he returns like that, if he, imagine if he played a bit part for City, so yeah, fully deserved, and I think it'd be interesting to see how he performs next season.
Well, you never know. He might be dropped by the new manager, or Bowley will sell him for 50 mil. No, look, that's all from us. Obviously, we've given our teams plenty to agree with, plenty to disagree with, and as always, we want to hear from you. Just send your teams below. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.
Here we go.